Hello everyone, let's get into the video. Red Bull has high expectations for Liam Lawson, and the first details of the RB21 have been revealed. Let's talk about that now. We'll talk about the Red Bull Group, or the Red Bull team itself. Liam Lawson expressed that he had to push a little harder to impress Red Bull, leading to some controversial maneuvers. Some of these were against Perez, who was Red Bull's main driver at the time, and also against Fernando Alonso. The one with Perez, where Lawson even flips Perez off, is emblematic because it's as if Perez was signing his resignation letter, so to speak. Liam Lawson not only clashed with Perez on the track but also humiliated Perez by giving the finger to the main driver who was desperately trying to keep his seat, while Lawson was coming in, asking for a chance. Liam Lawson defended his approach as necessary to seize every opportunity in his career. He wanted to impress Red Bull to get that seat, which ultimately worked out. Red Bull acknowledged this. Red Bull recognized that Lawson was aggressive and that he took on some unnecessary pressure at the time because, in one way or another, he would have moved up to Red Bull since Perez wasn't performing. It's also highlighted that Liam Lawson always had a consistent approach and, despite taking more risks, didn't drastically change his driving style. So, Liam Lawson, doing all this dirty work to get to Red Bull, ultimately, as the saying goes, paid dividends. He's on the main team now. And, precisely because he's on the main team, Christian Horner knows there's pressure on Liam Lawson. Christian Horner talks about the shield that will be placed around Liam Lawson, given that Red Bull has high expectations for the young driver. I disagree. I think there is expectation, yes, as there is with all young drivers who will be having their first season in Formula One. That's normal. But great expectations for Lawson? Matthias, don't think so. Maybe you disagree with me. You can say so in the comments. But I think the big expectations are on Bortoleto, Antonelli, maybe Berman, but not on Lawson. Red Bull wants to shield Liam Lawson because his teammate is Max Verstappen. Besides being on the team that has been winning titles in recent years, he will have the top driver of the moment as his teammate. And that can be very tough depending on what happens on the track. It won't be easy for Lawson to go head-to-head with Verstappen. You might remember that Pierre Gasly and Alexander Albon arrived with pomp, claiming they would go head-to-head with Verstappen, thinking they were just as fast. But in the end, we saw they fell way behind. They couldn't get the same feel for the car and the same performance. So, Lawson, who already has a little bit of experience in Formula One racing from last year, comes in with some expectations. He's not a driver who draws that much attention. Of course, we always hope the drivers do well, that we get entertainment, and that the guys deliver performance for interesting races. But Lawson won't have an easy life. Red Bull will have to do a great job to shield Lawson. I also want to see if Red Bull will have the patience, as they did with Sergio Perez, to give him a few years to adapt, to see if he can keep up with Verstappen. Since this is the last year of the current regulations, Red Bull will probably turn a blind eye to everything bad he does. Then, next year, they'll start effectively analyzing Liam Lawson. But that's my perspective. Last but not least, still talking about Red Bull, we have the following: the first data on the 2025 car is being revealed. You might remember that last year Red Bull decided to go for a more aggressive approach. Everyone thought they would just take the 2023 car and improve it a little. No, they changed a lot, and in the end, we saw they had a season of ups and downs, often not understanding what the car needed. In fact, during the season, some updates didn't work out. We recently covered this on the channel, about Red Bull's internal problems, Newey's departure, etc., which likely led to below-expected performance. But with the RB21, Red Bull is taking the opposite approach to what they did with the RB20. They're not going to take risks. On the contrary, Red Bull will simplify according to the first details of the new car. The new aerodynamics of the RB21 will focus on simplifying the internal airflow and improving the interaction between the rear wing and the diffuser, which is a very peculiar part of the car where teams have invested heavily during this ground effect period. Back in 2022, Red Bull was a reference in this area. They already had good knowledge and reference for what to do with the rear part. For some reason, they sought to change this, and it didn't work. It's also being said that the simplified look of the RB21 will be seen in the side pods and the upper part of the bodywork. It will be a visual change. We'll be able to look at it and immediately identify differences from last year's car. Remember that at that Formula One event where everyone presents their cars, teams will most likely only show the livery. It'll probably be a show car, a standard car with the 2025 paint. So don't expect to see Red Bull's car right away. We'll see the actual Red Bull concept when it hits the track in the shakedown. That's when images will leak, and people will start talking, saying they saw this or that on the Red Bull car. That's when we'll start seeing if the information matches or not. But from what's being said in the article, it seems that, yes, Red Bull will have a conceptual change that's practically confirmed. They'll also take a more basic approach to the flexibility of the front wing, eliminating elements that caused performance issues in the previous car. After all, the front part of the car is the first to receive the air, and it defines how the rest will be shaped. Red Bull identified several problems with the RB20 and is looking to fix them in the RB21 by simplifying. They realized that complicating things too much didn't work out. Now they'll simplify this concept to see if they can once again chase the title. To me, it makes sense, but now we need to see if this new concept will make sense on the track, if it will perform as expected. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your like.